What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing another Killstreak breakdown, this time actually using my own gameplay for once, and this is actually the same footage that I used in the BOSSK hero guide. 46 killstreak with BOSSK on Killstreak, as I thought it was worth breaking down, and unfortunately there are no BOSSK killstreaks submitted to the Killstreak breakdown form. Now, as always, if you guys do want to submit your own gameplay to be broken down, then there is a link in the description of all of my videos. I generally only do streaks between about 40 to 75, just because that is a very obtainable killstreak for any newer or less experienced players to get. So I'm definitely just going to be keeping it to that sort of sweet spot where it's all still a really high killstreak, but not too high to where none of us regular guys are going to be able to get the same type of gameplay. But anyway, guys, with that out of the way, let's get stuck right into the killstreak. So you can probably already tell from the little bit of gameplay that was in the background that I am pretty much trying to make the most of my abilities already. It's not something you want to really like spam or, you know, just do over the top, but pretty much whenever you can use an ability and it is going to be useful, you pretty much want to do that with BOSSK. A lot of other heroes in the game are a little bit less reliant on their abilities, or they're also the type of characters where maybe you want to keep them for when you get into a tough situation or something like that. But with BOSSK, he is that type of hero that you do really want to be using them whenever you can. He is very reliant on his abilities because his blaster is not that great, to be honest. It definitely does have its place and it is very useful, especially the sniper mode, which I think a lot of people don't actually use that much, to be honest, or at least use it as well as they could to their advantage. But yeah, regardless of whether the blaster is good, like his Ralby V10 is good, but he's definitely still reliant on his abilities. So you do want to be using them whenever you really get a chance, mostly in, you know, areas where you're going to be able to use them and get kills on multiple people rather than just like using it on one person. He is a really like crowd control type of hero. And so yeah, you will see throughout the gameplay that I'm trying to essentially use these whenever I can. Again, not just using them for the sake of it, but whenever I see an opportunity where it is going to be useful. I'm not trying to save them for later and, you know, use them to, I guess, as a fallback. I'm not really doing that. I'm mostly trying to just use them while I can. So that's really the main tip that I would give for BOSSK straight away, is just to, I guess, get a lot of playtime and just learn when those abilities are best to be used. There are times, like what you can probably see right now, I'm kind of not really using the abilities that much, and I'm mostly just using the blaster because this is a bit more open range. And this part of the map that I'm on right now is really that like transition phase of the map where I'm kind of transitioning between the first like close quarters area of the map, and then really from here you're waiting until you get to that like raided area up just past where I am now. And so yeah, in a situation like this, you don't want to be really using your abilities that much, but I think yeah, once you get further up the map and it is a bit more close quarters and stuff, that is when BOSSK definitely makes the most of those abilities. Now, one thing I wanted to mention here is just to take note of, I guess, my positioning, not just on the map, but also where I am behind teammates. You can see that Kylo's in front of me, and then there's obviously a few troopers around as well. And this is really the best position to be in, at least in this phase of the map. Obviously, like I said, when it's a bit more close quarters, you can kind of send it a little bit more because his abilities are really, really good for crowd control. But you can see here that I'm like surrounded by teammates, and it's going to help you stay alive a lot easier just because you're not the only focus. You know, people aren't just going to be focusing on you. There's a bunch of teammates around you that they're going to be shooting at as well. And you've got to keep in mind that BOSSK does have the lowest health in the entire game. So your health is not even that much better than like a death trooper, for example. And so yeah, you really do need to remember that. A lot of people say like, oh, you know, as a hero you shouldn't just be sticking behind your teammates. That's completely wrong. You are meant to play heroes with your teammates. That's the strongest way to play them. Obviously certain heroes like Vader and Luke and stuff, you don't really need them as much, but even still, sticking near teammates and making yourself not the only target is always a good idea. And generally speaking, it also depends on how, you know, if you're just going for a kill streak, then maybe that's not the case. But if you're trying to win the game, then obviously playing with your teammates is a really good idea as well. So I would say to just take note of the positioning. I'm kind of going between being with teammates, and then I do go off on my own a few times here and there. But generally when I do that with BOSSK, it's a bit more like, I guess, I don't want to say strategic, but it's more thought out. Like I know the areas of the map where I can afford to go off on my own, if that makes sense. You can see the areas here that I'm sort of getting into. There's always a fallback for BOSSK here in this section, so I know that if I do get into a bit of trouble, I'm not really in that big of a trouble because I'm not just way out in the open by myself. I can kind of move around these cliff faces here and get into those, you know, the little huts and stuff like that. So it's kind of a hard thing to give tips on because depending on the map, depending on how good or bad you are, depending on the skill of the enemy team and stuff like that, it's very hard to give exact tips on where to be and stuff like that. But I guess throughout the gameplay, try and take note. And again, my gameplay is far from perfect, so it's probably not the best example, but it's probably a decent example of someone who's just okay at the game, someone who's decent but not the best. And yeah, just pay attention to, I guess, where I'm positioning myself, again, not just in terms of the map in general, but also among teammates, or if I am going off on my own and stuff like that. Just try and take note of that throughout the gameplay. Now, after just speaking about, you know, sticking with teammates and stuff like that, I literally do the complete opposite here, and I just be a scumbag and chase this Yoda. The reason for that was because he nearly killed me earlier, and I know that he's a pretty decent player. I think I'd come up against this guy a few times, so I hate to be that guy, because I hate when people do it to me, but this dude's on like 1 health, so I'm obviously going to try and kill him and just get rid of him. I don't generally target heroes when they're, you know, full health and stuff. I don't enjoy that in terms of me doing it to them. I don't enjoy when people do that to me. But if someone's on super low health, I'm just going to go for them. I know that if I'm on 1 health, then the enemy team's going to target me as well. So that's just how it is. Generally, I would say it's a pretty scummy thing, you know, chasing heroes. But in that situation, I don't think it's that big of a deal, really. And I didn't even end up killing him anyway. I think Vader maybe got him, or actually I think he is still alive at this point. So that's another thing I would say, actually, is don't get too tunnel visioned. You can see there that I was really like hunting after Yoda, but then he pushed me away and Vader was chasing him. I just let him go. At that point, I was like, all right, I'm not going to get him. If I stayed trained on him, he probably would have killed me, or I would have just run around for 10 minutes just chasing him, getting no kills. So yeah, it is, sometimes you're going to get tunnel vision, and I think the best thing to do is just to try and be aware of when you do have tunnel vision, and just, you know, try and go for those type of kills and stuff like that. But as soon as you know you're probably not going to get that kill, just leave it. One of the main ways that I die in Battlefront 2 is getting tunnel vision and almost feeling like I have to get that kill, even if it's just a trooper, like, and you go out of bounds for that 1 second too long, or whatever the case may be. A lot of the deaths I get are from that type of gameplay where I'm just fixated on getting the exact kill that I want. And one thing I've learned over all the time playing the game is it is best to sometimes just let a kill go, because that will end up in you getting another 10 kills later on that you wouldn't have got, if that makes sense. So probably a good little tip there from that little bit earlier where I was chasing Yoda. The old me probably would have done that and just chased him until either he was dead or I was dead. Whereas you can see that I did have a little bit of, I don't know, I wouldn't call it maturity, but I had a bit of patience, I guess, in just going, all right, I'm not going to get him, let him go. And yeah, probably got me an extra 20 kills in this game, to be honest, because I think the kill streak probably would have ended just there. Now, at this point, we are moving on to the second phase here, and you can see that we do have only 78 tickets left. So it is going to be pretty tough to push in here, but the thing is with BOSSK, he is absolutely dominant on this area of the map. It's probably, I would say he's probably the best hero for this section of the map, honestly, at least on offense. His abilities are just crazy in these juggernauts here, and so yeah, that is essentially what I'm going to be trying to do every time I play BOSSK on this map, is just try and get through this phase, because if you can get through this phase, generally you're going to have, you know, somewhere between 30 and 50 kills, I guess at my skill level, moving through that phase. And then if you do get through the phase, obviously you've got the last phase as well, so you can get some pretty big kill streaks if you do get past this phase. It's obviously a very hard phase to actually get past, because it's kind of one of those areas where it's both really easy to attack and really easy to defend, if that makes sense, because it's really just whoever gets in there first is going to win that phase, I guess. So you can see here that I'm really trying to push these guys back as fast as possible, and I'm trying to make the most of Predator instincts as well, because obviously the ability to essentially see through the entire map is just absolutely mental on this phase of the map, and really any map for that matter. But one thing I want to say is you don't want to push in too much. So obviously I was just saying I'm trying to push these guys back as fast as I can, but as fast as I can doesn't mean just sending it in there and trying to clear them all out. I'm trying to play this a little bit slower. I know there's a few guys in there. There's turrets up there and stuff like that, and so I'm actually just going to try and pick these guys off from a distance. This Yoda keeps pushing me as well, so it is more valuable for me to stay alive and, you know, still be in the fight rather than just pushing in and dying, because that's not going to help anyone. So you want to play aggressively and you want to push them back, but you don't want to just full send until you know that it is, you know, clear enough that you can go in there. I do eventually push in there, and you want to try and get in there and kind of lock that down, but like I said, at that point earlier on, it's obviously looking a bit clearer now, and I think I do move in here actually after this Yoda starts pushing me. But yeah, you don't want to go in there too early and end up dying when, you know, you could be saving yourself and still getting kills, because you could see that I was sitting back there and sniping some of those guys in there. I'm still doing my role by getting kills there, but I'm just not risking myself for, you know, for really no gain at all. So it is, as always, that sort of that balance between finding, you know, that the perfect balance, I guess, of aggression and playing it safe, because yeah, you don't want to go too hard, you don't want to just sit back and snipe the whole time either, because you're not going to be much use there either. So at this point, this Yoda does keep hanging around here. I know that he's in there now. And even though I was just saying, like, you don't want to play too aggressively, at this point we are getting pretty low on tickets. We're at 44 tickets here, so I do, you know, at some point you do have to pretty much just completely ignore what I said earlier about not playing too hard, and you do just have to send it in. When the game's on the line like this, me staying alive and, you know, stuff like that, that's not going to help the kill streak, it's not going to help the game. So you do eventually have to just bite the bullet, unfortunately, and decide to push in. And you can see here that I'm all in at this point. I'm just trying to do anything I can to protect that bomb. I didn't even plant it, unfortunately, because I didn't have the time for it. But I'm just hoping that I can kill enough enemies that my teammates can get in there. You know that Grievous is in there now and he's actually planting that. So right there, I've essentially done my job, and again, making the most of the abilities, putting mines on the bomb and stuff like that, just essentially doing anything that I can to try and hold down this objective. Now with BOSSK, it can be easy and it can be hard, because against troopers you're generally going to do pretty well. You should borderline be able to lock this down by yourself against, you know, 5 to 10 troopers, maybe not 10, but generally speaking, unless they all push you at once, like, you're going to be able to survive fairly well in there with your gas and your mines and stuff like that. You're pretty hard to take down as, you know, as a trooper. But in saying that, if Saber heroes push in there, that can be quite the opposite, because BOSSK is not very good in close quarters against Saber heroes, because yeah, in a room like this with someone just swing spamming the hell out of you, that's obviously not going to be easy. So in some cases, BOSSK is really good in this situation, and in some cases he's really not that great either. But like I said, there is like 17 tickets left at this point, so it is, I'm just all in. Usually, like, you know, earlier on in the game I wouldn't be going this hard, just because I feel like generally you're going to die. But I do manage to hold my own pretty decently here. But then coming up here, there is a Saber hero. I think it's Anakin, or no, that's Luke that comes in here. And yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm in big trouble right now, as you can tell. Don't ask me how, but I actually survived that. That is crazy to me. I just ran past 3 troopers and they didn't shoot me, so not sure how I survived that, but they did unfortunately get the bomb off there. I probably should have just almost bit the bullet and just died and tried to stop them from getting that, because we would have probably got that. The only other issue is that if I died, they would have probably got it off anyway. So one of those kind of shitty situations where I think they were just going to win no matter what. We kind of needed some more help in there, unfortunately. Not to put all the blame on the teammates, but not really that many people were helping out in there. It was just me and Grievous at one point. So one of those situations where I felt like I was kind of doing as much as I could, and unfortunately we just didn't get the win, but it was still a decent kill streak. I think it ended on 46, and yeah, 46 kill streak in 2 phases is definitely nothing to complain about. So at the end of the day, still very happy with the kill streak, but it is always sad to think about, you know, what could have been if we had made it through that phase, I guess. But that is going to do it for this Killstreak breakdown, boys and girls. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below. And if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. Like I said, if you do want to submit your own gameplay, then there is a link down in the description and you guys can submit that gameplay, and hopefully I'll get around to that at some point in the future. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
Crush them! Make them suffer!